Okay, so yeah, thanks again for joining us for this pre-departure briefing for your ahead of your international summer program this coming summer. So this is presented by myself. I'm Chris from the International Summer Programs team. Ellen, who you may have had some correspondence with, is also in the webinar and will be on hand to take any questions and help field questions at the end. There will be time for a Q&A at the end. So if there's anything that we haven't answered that you would like answered, please do pop it into the Q&A at any time and we'll address them all at the end. In terms of what we're going to cover today, over roughly the next 20 minutes, half an hour or so, a few key things to go through. Firstly, just to sort of clarify that this is quite a generic pre-departure. It is mainly surrounding sort of the university side of things and some pretty, hopefully some pretty straightforward advice and information to help you be as prepared as you can be. We strongly urge you all to speak to your program providers and make sure that you're getting as much information from them as you can, and that you're attending any pre-departure sessions that they're hosting themselves, because they are the experts in the program that you're going on. So we're going to cover things like forms, we'll talk about DBS, insurance, passports, preparing to travel, what documents to make sure you have with you, personal safety, keeping in touch, support whilst abroad, essential contacts, maximising your experience, and then a few things about when you get back. So starting with forms. Now, hopefully the majority of you, if not all of you, will be somewhat familiar with forms already, the forms that we ask you to complete. We try to make it as straightforward and as easy for you to complete as we can. All documents that we need you to do, more or less, are hosted on Target Connect through the pathway, which is your one-stop shop. You follow each sort of document along the path as you need to go. There is a before departure section. This is where we collect key program information. We get you to sign some declarations to make sure that you're aware of exactly what the bursary is for and so forth. And we ask you to do a risk awareness exercise. And that also is where we collect your bank information so that we can pay bursaries to those of you that we are paying directly. There is also a section to complete upon return, which includes uploading a certificate of attendance, which needs to be signed by your provider. And it's important to add that all forms are mandatory as part of the funding you receive. So the before placement section and the after placement section are all as mandatory as each other. So it does form part of the agreement that you have signed on your declaration for the funding that you receive. So please do ensure that you complete that return, that after you return section. Otherwise, we will be chasing you. And if anything isn't completed within sort of a reasonable timescale as part of your declaration, you should have seen that we can ask you to pay funding back. So we don't want to do that. That's the last thing we want to do. But we do need all these documents back from you. Some of you are receiving funding from an external source, maybe Turing, for example, and therefore the requirement for documentation is even higher for those. Moving on to DBS checks. These are required for all placements for those of you working with children and or vulnerable adults. And to that extent, we require the enhanced DBS check. I know some of you might be working with program providers who are giving you a basic check. We can't accept a basic check. We do need an enhanced DBS if you are working with children and or vulnerable adults. So if you need a DBS, and if you don't think you've got a sufficient one, a suitable one, let us know. We can help out. We have a provider that we work with for enhanced DBS checks, and we can sort that out for you. Travel insurance. So again, once we collate all of your program information, We then have all the information that we need in order to be able to email you your travel insurance documents. So we'll send you an email with the policy summary. Make sure you have a really good read through it. Have a good look at what is included. Have a look at the limitations and exclusions. For example, the policy that we use, it doesn't cover mobile phones. So ensure it meets all of your needs, especially sort of dependent on the type of placement that you're doing. So make sure it covers everything you need it to. Make a note of the emergency contact numbers and how to get in touch with insurance and things like that, which are on the policy. And if you're unsure of anything, let us know, get in touch, and we can pass on the query to the respective teams to find that out. It is important to point out that you are responsible for ensuring that you're adequately insured for your needs. Travel insurance that we provide, it does not replace health insurance. It does cover emergency medical assistance. So they are different things. It does not permit traveling against medical advice. It only covers you for travel directly to and from your project. There's no sort of additional travel that you're able to do under the insurance policy. You are free to do travel yourself. However, you would need to get your own insurance to cover that. So it doesn't include travel after your placement ends, for example. It does usually cover extreme activities which are as part of your placement or that you might be wishing to do alongside your placement. But we do urge you to check with us first. We can get it approved by the insurance team. So please let us know if you're thinking of doing anything like, we have sometimes students doing maybe kayaking or whitewater rafting. The general advice of that is, as long as it's sort of you've done a bit of due diligence and the correct equipment is being used, then generally it's okay. But do check if you're unsure. Passport and ID information. So obviously you're going to need a passport. Take a photocopy. Take a photo or a screenshot of your passport and your visa if you need one, and have that on your phone. Leave photocopies with a copy of your passport with a trusted person or a family member. Take a photocopy of your passport and your visa if you have one, and keep it in a safe place separately from your passport. The reason this might sound a little bit overkill, but the main reason is if you lose your passport, having a copy of it will make it very much quicker. It will make it far quicker to get things sorted out if you need to go to the embassy or the consulate, whatever it might be. If you've got something with all the details of your passport on it, it's going to make things much easier to get sorted out. Take another form of ID with you. I'm sure most of you would do that anyway, but preferably photo ID. Again, it just gives you that extra backup in case something happens with your passport. Check the expiry date of your passport, make sure that it is within the requirements of your host country. So do check that. Some require at least 3 months. Sometimes they require 6 months of expiry beyond your intended period of stay. So just have a look at the FCO's travel advice on that link there through the government website in case there's any other stipulations. Generally speaking, it's quite straightforward, but it is always worth double checking. And also talk to your provider, your program provider. They should be able to give you advice on such things as well as visas, whether you need a visa or not. Moving on to preparing to travel. If you can, we would recommend traveling with another participant, somebody who's going to the same place as you. If you're not sure if that's the case, if there is anybody, get in touch with us. We can let you know and we can put you in touch. Generally speaking, we find that students who travel together, it just sort of shares the load a little bit, especially if you're not as confident traveler or not as frequent a traveler. It can be a little bit daunting going to, far-flung places around the world on your own. So if you can, and if you think you'd like to travel with another participant, and get in touch if we can help make that happen. Sounds pretty basic, but ensure you know when you need to arrive. So make sure your program provider has given you arrival information. Make sure that you can get there for that date. So with that in mind, shop around for your flights. Lots of comparison websites, Kayak, Skyscanner, they'll generally find you the cheapest flights, but also be aware that the cheapest flight may not be the most convenient. You might get a flight which is £200 instead of £600, but you've got a 13-hour layover in an airport halfway around the world. So bear that in mind. Obviously, it will depend on your budget, so you will need to be mindful of that. If you can, it's perhaps not so important now, but certainly in the last year or so with COVID, etc., we would always encourage you to look for flexible, maybe even refundable fares, just in case things change. The last thing you want to be is completely out of pocket for a flight. As I say, perhaps not so important this summer, but something just to be aware of. As I mentioned, check layover times. Is it feasible? Are you comfortable with it? Are you happy to go to, I don't know, Doha Airport and spend 6 hours there through the night? So just be very mindful of all these little details about your travel and plan it in as much advance as you can. Ensure you know your onward travel plans from the airport. So it's all good and well saying, right, I need to get to the airport in Delhi. Make sure you know where you're going from there. Are you being picked up? Do you need to get an onward taxi or a bus or a train? Have you got another flight? Make sure you know the ins and the outs. Try and plan ahead. If you can find information out, such as what terminal do I depart from? What terminal do I arrive at? And sort of make sure that you can be one step ahead of the game and really take some of that strain out of that part of the journey, which you can find when you get there. You don't want to be getting there, your phone doesn't work, there's no signal or whatever, or the Wi-Fi is not working, and you've got to try and figure out things in a different country where you don't speak the language. So be as prepared as you can. And yeah, ensure you know your final destination. Have the address to hand. So if the very worst comes to the worst, you can just show the address to a taxi driver or to somebody who can help, and they'll be able to give you some guidance. And also have contact details for your program provider to hand, either in your hand luggage or stored in your phone, easily accessible, so that if you need to give somebody a call, you're not having to route through your suitcase in the airport or whatever it might be. So just be as prepared as you can. In terms of travel documents, so you can expect border officials to ask questions or maybe interview as you enter your host country. So again, this is just about being prepared, and it might sound overkill. You may not need any of these on the day. However, it's better to have too much and be over prepared than the opposite. So obviously you will need your passport and your visa in your hand luggage. You won't get very far without those in your hand luggage. Any documents that supported your visa. So if you had to prove finances, if you needed supporting letter from the program provider, if you needed a confirmation letter from ourselves, have your travel insurance documents. If you need extra health insurance coverage, just have it all in your hand luggage, accessible, ready to show somebody if they ask. It just makes things much easier, much more quick, and you also will come across as much more organized and as if you're sort of headed in the right direction, and that can also help. If you want to do any additional travel while abroad, as mentioned, purchase further travel insurance if you require it. Useful to have a copy of that with you as well. In terms of your personal safety, I think this is quite an important one. Research your destination, use all manner of tools that you can. There are lots out there. There's Google Maps, Google Earth, Google Street View. If you can use that to figure out what it looks like where you're going, what your accommodation looks like, or what your village looks like, whatever it might be, just get as much information and as much intelligence as you can, because that is really going to give you a head start as to where you'll be going and where you need to be. You walk out the airport terminal. If you've never seen the place before, it's all brand new, it's daunting, it's very easy to get disoriented or lost. It's just about removing as much stress from the situation as possible. So research your destination, talk to your host provider, talk to other students, get yourself as knowledgeable and as prepared as you can be. During the first few days, without wanting to sort of make this sound a bit scary, but do be overcautious and be alert while you get your bearings and while you settle in. It is easy to sort of stand out from the crowd when you first arrive. especially if you're not sure where you're going and you look a little bit uncertain. So do be overcautious. Make sure you keep all your possessions, firmly on yourself. Don't have anything hanging out of your pockets. Keep things zipped away wherever you can. Just be overcautious and be alert, as you would if you're going to London for the weekend and you're on the tube. You keep things very close to yourself and you don't have things on display. So just be overcautious and alert. Make sure you know your country's emergency contact numbers. Again, something happens and you need to call somebody quickly. You don't want to be unsure of the number. You want to be able to just deal with it and get it done as soon as possible. We would suggest storing emergency details and contacts in your mobile phone. You guys are going to have your phone with you pretty much 24/7, so that's probably the best place to do that. You can also sign up to travel alerts for your country, for your destination country, again, through the government UK website. Contact from ourselves. So we're here all summer. We don't have a summer holiday as such. So our job over the summer is to keep you guys okay and look after you guys and support you where we need to. Hopefully we won't need to. Hopefully you guys are going to have a great time and not need us. But if you do, we are here. So we do ask you to let us know when you arrive. If you're going with a group, if there's sort of 5 or 6 you in the same place, only one of you needs to let us know. But if you could just confirm the names of who has arrived, that'd be really helpful. Do check your email while abroad. Moving forward this summer, we will be contacting you by email. You don't necessarily need to worry so much about Student Connect. We're going to try and make things easier for you over the summer. So please check your university email. If there is an international incident near where you are, either at your university or at your host destination, we will contact you to check in on you to make sure that you're okay. So if that happens, we really email you and we will be very grateful to get a response from you confirming all is okay. And if that doesn't happen, then we will find other ways to try and make sure that you're okay. That could be with the program provider, just to make sure you're okay. So we do need to make sure that you're there and that you're okay. And whilst you're there, if anything happens or anything crops up, or if you need anything, please get in touch. Further support whilst you're abroad, there's a few links here which you'll be able to access through the slides when you get them, but through the Counselling and Wellbeing team, Disability and Dyslexia Service, Advice and Money. You can also talk to your program provider. Now, obviously, in country, they're going to be really well placed to support you. They'll have a lot of in-country expertise. They will know all of the local information that we probably won't. So anything on the ground that can be dealt with quickly and easily, go to your program provider. Anything more serious or that you need further help for, come to us. And then there are also these other services, and there's also the Talk Campus app, which you may be aware of, which is worth looking into. That's if you're struggling at any point. To find all this information, you can search support whilst abroad on the student intranet. Some essential contacts. In previous years, we've given this out as a little sort of credit card size thing, but with COVID and everything, we've sort of moved away from that. So there are some essential contacts here. And again, this is a good page to have, or a good thing to screenshot and have in your phone. If you need to get in touch with us while you're away, there's a series of phone numbers at the bottom. There's space there if you want to add in your country emergency number, the telephone number of your host organisation, your local British consulate. The university security team are 24-hour. You can contact them. You can contact us generally in working hours in the UK on the number through the Global Opportunities number there. This year we're going to have we'll have a WhatsApp. So if you want to check in and say you arrived, you can contact us via WhatsApp. So that's a good one to save in your phone. We can respond to you on that as well. Go WhatsApp just to let you know it's not 24 hours. But you will likely get us more hours of the day than working hours. So that's a good way to get in touch. Student Support Centre for any of the services I mentioned before. And then if you need to make an insurance claim, or if you need to get some emergency medical treatment, you'll see it on the policy itself. So when you read through the policy, this will be reiterated, but you are strongly advised to contact that number in the first instance before you agree to anything, if it's feasible. there's a sort of 24-hour number there that you can contact, and they can give you some advice from the with regards to insurance and claims and so forth. So we want you to really maximize your experience and make the absolute most of it. So it is quite easy when you're on your placement to sort of get wrapped up in it, and before you know it, the placement has ended, and it kind of goes by in sort of the blink of an eye. And we want to make sure that you keep a record of everything, and that you remember everything, and that you've got a really good record of these skills that you're developing. Going on an international placement for anyone at any time is a challenge. It's difficult. You gain a lot of skills, you overcome a lot of challenges, and it's valuable for all of those things. But what we want to make sure that you do is that you've got a good record of them, so that when you're coming to talk to employers, update your CV, go to job interviews, and submit job applications, that you can really maximize and include some of these skills you will develop from your time abroad. So think about the skills that you're developing, and it can just be sort of spending 5-10 minutes a day of reflection. Students before have done a diary, they've taken a lot of video footage. You can take some photography and your own videos, submit them to us. We usually have a photo and video competition each year. Some students do a journal or blogging, or being a digital storyteller, and we'll send some more information to you about that in the coming weeks. But this is basically about making sure that you basically have a realistic and a lifelong memory of what you do. Because if you go on holiday for sort of 2 or 3 weeks, generally you don't normally remember what you did on the Wednesday of week 1, for example. You can't sort of go into great detail and really give a really good account of what you did. So it is important to keep a record. It will help you in future. And these are really just some tips about how you can maximize your experience purely from the experience itself. And the main advice really is to get involved with as much as you possibly can. Integrate with the local community. You'll be amazed what you learn from other people, and what you learn from other cultures. Immerse yourself in the culture, throw yourself into it. It will be taking yourself out of your comfort zone in a lot of times, in a lot of places, in a lot of ways, but just go for it and get immersed and embrace it, because you will develop life skills. It's an opportunity to travel. You could do some other travel while you're there. You might learn a new language, networking, and ultimately we want it to be as much fun as it possibly can be. So yeah, do throw yourself into it. That way you will get the most out of it. And then finally, when you return, so this is obviously getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but there are a few things that you can do ahead of your return and when you return. So we have the photo and video competitions, as I mentioned. We usually organise a careers workshop, or potentially even a welcome back event in the autumn, which we encourage you to attend. That's from the careers team, who, as I was mentioning, some of the things you've recorded, this is then how you use those experiences and how you can enhance your CV and impress at interview. Ultimately, one of the main aims of this placement from the university's perspective, yes, it's for you to have an amazing time, and it's for you to have those international experiences, but it's also to make sure that you're as employable as possible when you graduate. So the next step to that, having had the experiences, how can we help you to maximize those experiences and put them into your CV, so that when it comes to interview, you're blowing everyone out the water. And in future years, next year, we will probably have team leaders. We usually have team leaders on some of our volunteering projects. So if volunteering this year is something you end up really enjoying and you want to do it again, that's another way that you can be involved moving forward. And we usually recruit some global opportunities ambassadors. So again, if you have a really good experience and you think, why are tons more students not doing this? We think that all the time. If you want to help us next year, recruit some more students to do the sorts of things that you have done, we would love you to be an ambassador for us, because as much as we go around trying to tell everybody to do this, it's far more powerful when your fellow students are telling you about their own experiences and telling you why you should do it. So yeah, there's always the opportunity to become involved that way. If you still need more information, or if there's still some stuff you need help with, there are plenty of ways that you can come and see us. Plenty of appointments. They're all bookable using your Student Futures account through the student intranet. So you can always make an appointment to have a one-to-one with us and get some further advice. And you can contact us via email, go@cardiff.ac.uk. As I say, we know you will have been using Student Connect. However, moving forward from now, just get in touch with us via email, and I'm sure you'll agree it will be quick and easy to contact us that way. And finally, the last sort of before we move into Q&A, just a few sort of final thoughts. I think I've mentioned it a few times, but I don't think it hurts to mention it again. Research, do as much research as you possibly can. There is a saying, I know that it was Roy Keane who said it, who was a Man United player. I don't know if he came up with it himself, but fail to prepare to fail. So basically, if you don't do any preparation, you're setting yourself up to not have as good a time as you can. So do as much research as you can. The more you know about it, the more prepared you're going to be. And when you get there, you're just going to hit the ground running, especially for these types of placements, which, you know, are pretty short a lot of the time, 2 or 3 weeks sometimes, and it will go very, very quickly. So you want to make sure that you hit the ground running and that you're getting the very most out of it. So you use Google, use program partner websites, and so forth. Learn about the culture of your destination country, speak to your provider, make sure you attend any sessions that they put on, watch their videos, any little snippet of information you can get, which is going to make you that bit more prepared, is going to help you know what to expect. And don't get me wrong, you can't know exactly what to expect, and it will still catch you by surprise, and it will still be different, but at least you will have some level of knowing what to expect. Be flexible. This is particularly aimed at those of you doing a volunteering project, particularly in developing countries. Things don't always go to plan, especially with volunteering projects. Things may change at short notice. You might have a timetable. Without wanting to cast too much of a stereotype, but in certain countries, particularly in developing countries in Asia and Africa, timetables tend to be very fluid. So you might be expecting to go somewhere at 10 a.m. and then the bus doesn't turn up to pick you up until 11 a.m. So just be flexible. Things may change at short notice, or even at no notice. You may just not be told anything and it's a completely different plan. So just go with the flow, embrace different ways of doing things. That is ultimately one of the main parts of the journey. And that's it from me. So as I said, it's a bit of a high level sort of general briefing. Hopefully you'll be encouraged to go and get a lot more information from your program provider specific to your program. If there's anything that you feel we've missed, or if there's anything you need to know, we will open the Q&A now. So I'll just bring it up on my screen so that I can answer some of these questions live. So somebody's asked if there's anybody else going to the Sciences Po July session. That's probably better to email us, and we can have a look into that for you and put you in touch. Does Go provide health insurance? So no, we don't. The only insurance we provide is the travel insurance, which is through UMAL. And as I said, we can send you a copy of that policy. You can take a look at it. If you need anything additional, if you're going somewhere like the USA or Canada or Australia on a study program, usually the host university will recommend a policy for you, and sometimes it's mandatory that you take that policy. So I hope that answers that. If we've already bought a basic DBS check, is there a way to update this to an enhanced, or would we need to buy another one? If it's a basic one that's been done through online disclosures that we used, the answer to that one is I don't know. If it's with somebody else, you would need to buy another one. But if you email us and explain your situation to us, we can look into that. Worst case scenario, if it costs you an extra 50 quid or whatever they cost, we'll make sure that you're not out of pocket for that. Is there any advice about what additional insurance we should buy? I'm doing Think Pacific. We've got tons of students who've done Think Pacific before. My best advice for that would be to get in touch with Think Pacific. There is a girl who works for Think Pacific called Sienna, who is a former Cardiff student. She went on Think Pacific with Cardiff. She was then a team leader and she now works for Think Pacific. I would say get in touch with Sienna. She'll be able to give you a wealth of information to help answer that. So I'm doing a Pagoda project in Madrid where I had to pay an amount of money. Do I get that money back from the uni funding? Yeah, so individual cases like that, it's probably not best not to answer on a webinar. So again, if you could drop us an email with that question, we'll sort that out with you. What happens if the DBS check takes longer than expected, i.e. more than a month? Well, in theory, it shouldn't, because as long as you've done your bits, it should come back quickly. So just hang in there, keep in touch with your program provider, keep in touch with us. We can, if it's with online disclosures, we can get in touch with them and ask them to expedite it. But generally speaking, they should be turned around pretty quickly. Does the insurance cover level 5 whitewater rafting? So that's from Morgan. If you could, so as I said, basically, as long as due diligence has been done, proper equipment is being used, and you're going with, you know, an organised sort of provider of that type of activity, generally yes. However, I would say if you can email us with that sort of information, if you can send us a link to who it's with, we can then run it by the insurance team to get the definitive answer on that. Okay. My flight to the internship country arrives a few days before the start of the placement, as no other convenient flights are available. I want to arrive 2 days in advance to settle in before starting. Do I need to get further insurance? Maria, no, that's fine. We will incorporate that into your start date. We do allow travel days to and from placement. It's more a case of if you wanted to go a week before and do some sightseeing, that wouldn't be covered. But if you've got to go 2 days before due to travel restrictions or whatever it might be, that's absolutely fine. You will be covered. I read that health and insurance is valid for 7 days after a placement. Unfortunately, Alex, that has recently changed. So we've had confirmation from the insurer in the last couple of months that that is no longer the case. Our insurance basically covers the placement date plus a day or two either side for travel. So if you do any onward travel, I would recommend you get a separate travel insurance policy, which I know is a bit of a pain. Yeah, unfortunately, that one's out of our hands. Are there any pre-departure sessions for specific projects? Not from us, because frankly, there are too many, and we aren't the experts on each of the individual projects. However, speak to your project provider, ask them if they're doing their own pre-departure, or if they've got any information, or even if you just need a call with them to ask any questions. They will all be more than willing to help you. I think that's a duplicate. Does our DBS check need to be approved before we get our bursary, or is it just the forms? It's just the forms, because we're conscious that if the DBS check holds you up, it then adds further delays to you getting your money. That doesn't really make any sense. So we can give you the funding before your DBS check. If anything were to go wrong with the DBS check and it meant you couldn't travel because of something on your DBS check, then we would obviously not be able to support your placement, and we would have to ask for the funding back. So that's just to be something to be aware of. But you know, you will know if your DBS check is going to be okay. So as long as that is the case, that's absolutely fine. Can we apply for additional funding for travel expenses? I'm traveling to Japan and flight tickets are getting more and more expensive. Unfortunately, the funding model we've got is pretty set in stone. So the funding that we've allocated and that we've awarded, that kind of is it for the moment. If you can, I don't know if you've contacted us, if we've checked whether you're eligible for additional funding, we generally check that by default. So unfortunately, unless you're eligible for additional funding, that generally is it. The DBS check, do you need to send it over, or can you get this from the uni? send us an email. We'll tell you what you need to do for your DBS check. We'll send you a link. You do it all online. You then have to, I think you have to take some documents to the post office to get them verified, and then it all goes through online. You don't need to do anything else. Do I get university funding for travel hours during the volunteering, sorry, travel tours during the volunteering period? The funding that we award you is a set amount, and that is for your whole trip. So if you receive, say, for example, we're giving you £1,200, that is for you to spend on whatever you need to spend for your placement. So if you want to do travel tours during that, that's entirely up to you. There's no additional funding for that. The funding is the set in stone amount that we give you at the start. Who are current Go ambassadors? What do they do? What should we think about before going on our placement if we're interested in next year? Okay, so we don't have many Go ambassadors this year because we had a small cohort last year because of COVID. So we've only got a small amount, but generally it's helping out with, it could be lecture shouts, it can be attending our Global Opportunities fairs, it can be arranging events. It's a little bit of an open book, and it is something that we're probably looking to revamp a little bit next year. So it is a bit of, as I say, a bit of a blank canvas. We want to we want it to be shaped by the future ambassadors, in all honesty, because a lot of the time you guys have got better ideas than we have, because you're a lot younger than we are, and you know what works with students. In terms of what you should think about if you're interested in doing it, just take it all in, take in your whole experience, make a journal of it, take a diary, whatever it is. Remember the good things, remember the difficult things, and ultimately, when it comes to being an ambassador, we just ask for lots of enthusiasm. We ask that you throw yourself into our events, that you're willing to talk to students and sort of really help to promote what we do, and give them an honest assessment of what you did, and tell them why you recommend doing a global opportunity. Another one about funding, which I've already answered. If you buy travel insurance, but I buy health insurance, I can get a refund. So that might be if you are in receipt of additional funding. So that's a difficult one to answer on here. This is from Meggie. If I become a Go ambassador, can I get funded for next year product as well? So you won't get funding for doing a program as an ambassador, but if you do a program as a team leader, then you would receive funding for that as well. What advantages do I get as a Go ambassador if I don't get funding? Yeah, so being a Go ambassador is something that looks good on your CV. We are looking at possibly being able to pay students to be ambassadors for certain things. So there may be some financial incentive there. But if you want to become a team leader, then that's something we can help fund. What does it mean to become a team leader? So some of our volunteering projects, those in India, Thailand, and Japan, for example, have historically had a team leader, which is somebody who's been on one of our programs before, who essentially leads a group of volunteers on a future project. It's quite an informal leadership role. So you go and you do volunteering, you are just another volunteer alongside the group, but you've got that extra layer of experience, that level of experience, having been on a project before. You can maybe do a bit of problem solving, you can do a bit of team building, you can help sort of decide what tasks are undertaken. You can act as the go-between between the group and the in-country volunteering teams or staff. You can also act as a go-between between us and the team. You help formulate the team itself. So when we're selecting volunteers, you have an involvement in the selection and recruitment process. So basically, it's like being a volunteer again with some extra responsibility. And that means we can give you funding to help out. I'm moving out of this accommodation by the end of the month. Would it be possible to change the address of where the DBS check is sent? That depends on who you've done it with. So if you've done it through the university, the DBS check comes to us, it comes back online anyway. So that's not a problem. If it's with somebody else, you need to give them a call and just update them. If we ended up taking part in an activity whilst abroad that we weren't fully planning on, such as kayaking, would this be still covered by insurance? So it's same answer as before, really. As long as it's all due diligence is done, it's all safe and above board, you've got the right equipment, it's a proper organized activity, generally speaking, yes, do give us a shout if, to confirm that. If you can send us the details, try and do that and we can just get it double checked. Do I need a UK or an international DBS if I'm European? So you should be able to get one from your home country's government / authority / equivalent. So I don't think you can get a UK one as a non-UK national. I have a basic DBS check. There is a chance that I have a supervised visit to a school at one point. However, my project has nothing to do with children other than that. Do I still need an enhanced DBS check? If it's not part of the overall program and the provider has confirmed that, then I think that's okay. You don't need one. I compete at sports at a high level, and while it's not related to my project, I'll be continuing to train whilst abroad. Will the travel insurance cover this? So that's going to depend on the activities that you're doing, but I can't see any reason why it wouldn't. But if you could email us just with a bit more detail, again, we can just run it by the insurance team, get their definitive answer on it, and then you've got that to hand. Ruby says, the country I'm going to has different project locations. Can I get in contact with people from Cardiff in the other locations in case they want to travel together before? Absolutely, Ruby. If you could let us know what sort of information that is, we can look at students going to those countries and we can email them directly. So please do that. I've received my funding from Go. Does that mean I've already completed everything I need to do for Go before departure? Oliver, yes, indeed. You've done all the pre-departure activities, so congratulations, you've got your money, well done, thank you. So yeah, that's all you need to do. It will just be a case now of when you get there, let us know you've arrived. That could be an email, it can be a WhatsApp, however you wish to do that. And then when you get back onto Target Connect for the post after you've returned section, which is a certificate of attendance signed by your host. I think there's a survey and maybe one or two other very quick activities. Okay, I think we have gone through all of the questions. So if nothing else is coming through, I'm going to stop recording.